So it finishes Brentford 1, Arsenal 1. Let's just remind you what that means at the top of the table. Manchester City, with that win over Fulham yesterday, means that it's just 4 points. Now at the top, I think it's fair to say, obviously, Aston Villa out of the race, but City still breathing down the neck of Arsenal. Julian Laurent joins us. Jules, for those who are maybe focused on the Barcelona game, take us through this tie.
This was great, especially in the second half. The first half was maybe a bit more laborious from both teams, but Brentford in that first half preventing Arsenal from playing completely. Their press worked really well. Yannet caused a lot of problem. When Brentford were building up from the back, I never thought I would say that Arsenal would struggle in a game where Yannet was the key man and the key player, but that was the case in the first half. Second half, Arsenal were better. Mikel Arteta made some changes. They pressed better. They were more intense. I thought they deserved to take the lead. And after that, it was very much open. And when you look at this Arsenal team with Odegaard and Saka on the bench, who would come on later, but still sitting on the bench, no Saliba. And Mosquera at times, as we saw in the highlights, making a couple of mistakes against Thiago Silva. I think in the end, this is a good point for Arsenal away from home in a really tough game. As we saw for the expected goals, they were well beaten by Brentford on that data. So I think Mikel Arteta in the end, even if you obviously dropped technically 2 points, I don't think Arsenal were good enough tonight to win at Brentford.
Nobody's doing... I saw Brentford, I've seen them a few times, but I saw them absolutely outplay Chelsea and lost because they made some mistakes. So it was always going to be a tough game for Arsenal. But, you know, the centre-halves with Thiago, you know, the physicality, 1-0 up. You know, at the end of the season, when you look back, 1-0 up, digging it out. Sunderland, 2-1 up, dig it out. Lost some points there. So these are the little moments where, at the end of the season, you look back and go, wow, a decent point in that, actually. Or that's where it's cost us. So we'll find out at the end of the year what that is. But I tell you what, Jules, nobody is doing more, in my opinion, with less in the Premier League than Keith Andrews.
Yeah, you're right. And at the time where we talk a lot about Thomas Frank and Brentford letting him go and replacing him with Keith Andrews, and this team being even better than they were last season without Mbomo, Norgard and Wissa is pretty much exceptional. And you know, tonight, again, they do all the basics so right. Everything in terms of their discipline defensively, how aggressive they are on the front foot. They are one of the most physical teams in the league. The throws, the set pieces, Igor Thiago up front. That is such a handful. That midfield, that works really well. And they were very smart, I thought, especially in the first half, which caught Arsenal a bit cold in the way they build up from the back, in their rotation in midfield, which I don't think Arteta and Arsenal players expected that from them, because that's not really what we've been used to so much. So, yeah, credit to Keith Andrews again for the job that he's been doing. And for the season that they're having, they're still very much fighting to finish top 6 and 7, by the way. Might still take them into Europe next season, which would be incredible for them.
Just keep throwing City a bone, didn't they?
Absolutely.
You know, Man United at home was unexpected. Dropped points. A couple of others, you know, Forest away. Brentford, good side, but I think they've won the last 4 there, I believe. Might be wrong, but I think they've won the last 4 at the G-Tech Arsenal. And they just keep throwing that little bone City's way, just to keep them from being demoralised. Because when you put somebody 7, 8, 9 points behind at this point of the season, you go in the dressing room as an opposing player and go, we get no. You don't say it in front of the manager,
sure,
because you know he doesn't want to hear it. But amongst the players, they say, look at this Arsenal team.
Yes.
You know, they're just not good. They're relentless, and it demoralises you as the chasing team. But they just keep giving. And I'm not saying they're really bad. They're not. They're the best squad in the country, the best team in the country. But they just keep giving Guardiola's team something to hang on to.
Gyökeres back in the starting 11. How would we rate him today, Jules?
I thought he worked really hard and clearly to beat that press, especially in the first half. Clearly the aim from Arsenal was to play long on him, and it's not easy when you've got Ayer behind you and the Brentford defenders, but I thought he did okay. There was a chance in that second half, we didn't show it on the highlights, where Arsenal moved the ball really well on the right-hand side, and then Rice, instead of going for goal himself, tried to play the ball almost in the 6-yard box for Gyökeres, and Coyote comes back and just clear the ball at the moment where Gyökeres is going to hit it and score from that close range. You see the the touch map that he had. The problem, obviously, as you can see, is the last two numbers in the stats. The fact that he has 0 xG because there was 0 shot on target, on goal, and that's the problem, obviously, in a team like that. But tonight was a game where it would have been great for him to score, sure, but you also needed him more, for all that kind of work to get the block higher from Arsenal, to try to beat their press, to be a handful for the Brentford defenders, which I think he can do and try to do tonight.
And currently where we are, Jules, say there's 3 games left in the season, right? Thinking ahead. City are level in points, are chasing you down. You've got Havertz, Gyökeres and Jesus fit. Where do you think he goes? What piece of the pawn does he put on the board?
I think Arteta will choose depending on who they face, because I think Havertz was not available, was not fit for tonight, so it was Gabriel Jesus or Gyökeres. In a game like this, away, under the rain, the cold, the wind, everything you want, you put Gyökeres to play against that Brentford defence more than Gabriel Jesus, to be fair. And that's what he did. If the opponent had been somebody else tonight, he might have well more fancied Havertz if he'd been fit, or Gabriel Jesus. The good thing, as we've explained before on the show, the different of profiles, which I think is very good to have variations in your number 9 that you can play, because it will help you, different combination you can have, different system, but also you can adapt to the opposition. Havertz is probably a bit of a mix of the two, and then you've got 2 extreme profiles between Gabriel Jesus and Gyökeres, and that could be a good thing, as long as, obviously, you pick the right guy. If you do that, depending on who the other position is.
What was you laughing at?
Was that a chess reference? What was that? What piece of the pawn do you put on the board?
I'm not a chess player.
Well, clearly. What does that even mean?
It's all I can think about.
Jules, with your Arsenal...
Hey, Jules got it.
Why? He was being polite. Jules,
go home, you know.
With your Arsenal ways, Gyökeres is great. Are you worried?
No, and I don't think anybody should be worried. Why would you be worried for?
4 points, Jules.
But 4 points, it could well be 6, not this weekend because the FA Cup, but the following weekend. Or, it could go up to more than that, or it could stay at 4. And, City will have to play Brentford. Okay, it'll be at the Etihad, but they will still have to play Brentford. City are not going to win every single game between now and the end of the season. Neither will Arsenal.
He's
worried.
No, I'm not. I promise you.
That's too much. Where is your bishop on the board?
I don't understand why you would say they're worried. 4 points.
Look, see, your voice is gone high, you're talking quicker, Jules, you can feel it.
Because I'm trying to convince you and to tell you that, relax, let's all relax here.
Everybody relax.
What's the bishop and what else is there?
Our interviews when you go to Brentford, it's the atmosphere. You can hear that the fans are still there. We saw the team kind of go round and applaud them at the end. And you can understand why, Theo, because taking your Arsenal hat off for just a moment, Brentford have been brilliant at home this season, particularly against the top sides.
Yeah, there wasn't many people leaving before the end of the game. It was incredible. It's a great little atmosphere, that stadium, fantastic. And they deserve everything they're getting right now. But there's a confidence and there's an energy about the place, and it's going in the right direction. It always has been, actually. And I feel now they're a really established Premier League team, and they're growing. They're growing very fast. And I was really pleased with Lewis Potter. He did some really nice moments tonight as well. But it's really refreshing just to see the energy that he gives in this young Brentford team, actually, because it is really young. So for me, he's a player to keep an eye on. This is why Brentford are doing well. Players like himself who are allowed to play with that freedom, and I think that's what Keith Andrews allowed for the team to access. OK,
well, as we just heard from him, let's take a look at the goal that he did score to equalise things for Brentford. Do you want to talk us through this, Theo? Because I know that you were a little bit intrigued about something that happened just before.
Yeah, I mean, we've been in this position before. Well, I have anyway. You not so much a sub.
I've got a halfway line.
But there was a substitution that was made before. Bukayo Saka come on, and it's kind of unusual during a set piece, because it was a corner, actually, that he came on for, which was here, which led to the clearance that went out for a throw. It could happen to anyone, but it's just more on the fact a substitution was made, and you can be a bit disorganised, I suppose. But look, Coyote's got an incredible throw. We know this, but it's all about the first contact. Van der Berg wins it. And Lewis Potter, his movement, his energy around there, and he just smells it. And you can just see here, you highlighted him here. Odegaard is aware of him, however, it's the little initial movement. He's that elegant and that fast, he can't react. And here, JD, the first touch is so important.
Yeah, I think with any set piece, really, long throw-ins, there's so many bodies and so congested, I think the first contact's so important. Arsenal normally, they normally defend this well. The setup's good. If you don't get the first contact, you don't get the second, you're in trouble. It's a brave header, to be honest, right into the top corner there. But I have to say they deserved it. For how they played in the second half, they deserved that. And maybe should have gone and won, like I said.
It isn't something we see Arsenal do too often. They're so impressive defensively, so robust. We know they were missing William Saliba tonight. I know you said pre-match how much there is squad depth now and they have confidence in the players that come in. But do you think that they looked a bit unsettled as a back line a bit tonight?
They looked nervous. They did. It's quite an intimidating place to play football as well, if you're not used to it, coming from different cultural leagues. However, look, I felt like they would go there and do the job. And like Jermaine said, the first half was wasted. The second half, there was signs which were improved when Martin Odegaard came on, and that's how Arsenal should have started. So they'll be kicking themselves for that, with the way they started wasn't the right way. But look, they're still 4 points clear of Man City, and they've just got to keep them at bay.
And interestingly, Brentford are so impressive from throw-ins. They've got the most goals from throw-ins in the Premier League this season. They know what they're good at, and they use it, Jermaine. Sounds simple, but they're showing it works.
The long throws that come back. Sam Allardyce used to get... Like I said, it just causes chaos. And obviously they work on being brave. I don't suppose there's much tactical element to it, but you've got to be brave and get the first contact, like I said. And then, and then see if you can get the second one, and, it causes chances. I mean, if you've got someone that's got a long throw, you have to use it. And like you see, when you see the graphic there, it's effective, so you've got to keep using it.
What I like as well is where they're always moving. Yeah. Sometimes throw-ins, you're waiting, he's rubbing the towel, but they're just constantly on the move.
And it's hard to defend it.
It's so hard to defend.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and Jermaine, we wouldn't be defending there.
I was going to make that point,
I'm ready for the counter-attack. But no, it causes so many problems and it just disorganises everyone. And then suddenly you've lost your man because you ran into someone. So it's a great weapon to have.
It goes back to kind of something we said pre-match, where you guys pointed out the fact that once they get the ball, they kind of look to attack. They know what they're good at, and they just do it. And it's like, I said it before, it sounds so basic, but not all teams do that.
I think teams try and do it, but you can tell that they've worked on it. Because I think you can win the ball back and you can break, but you've got to do it with quality. You've got to keep the ball. And even before, at the top of the show, we saw a few clips where on the transition, they get to like 3 passes quickly, and then you've got runners, and then they end up scoring. I think that's a skill. That's something that you have to work on as a team. And they do it so well, better than anyone in the league, to be honest.
How much credit does Keith Andrews deserve?
So much credit, because I think they're a better team now than they were last season and the season before. I feel like I think they've always been a good team, a decent team, but I feel like they're harder to play against now. I think there's a sort of like clear identity in terms of how they play, and the home form. Any team that goes there, it's going to be a difficult game.
It does feel like they're so incredibly well coached, well drilled, and there was a lot said about him being the set piece coach before, but it's almost like that's working to their advantage.
It's just refreshing. I think we've said it at the top of the show, like you were saying, you put players in positions where they're going to be creative and to play with that spark and that freedom, that energy, and Keith Andrews has allowed that to happen in certain ways, and he does not let teams get back into shape. Very refreshing. He wanted to win the game at the end. Some teams would just want to keep that point, but they knew they could smell that they could get a result tonight. That's why he was so disappointed. You could see he was disappointed not getting the win. But look, it's great to see, and that's why we love the Premier League. That's why we love it. Brentford. Keith Andrews knows that it was an opportunity to take there, but it's look at that, shots. They limited Arsenal tonight massively. It's incredible, the clearances. I mean, I was super impressed with Brentford tonight.
That's the fewest shots for Arsenal in a match this season, and we probably, looking at those stats, need to pay credit to Brentford. Not only did they restrict Arsenal, but they managed to do that whilst having chances of their own. Yeah,
and you speak about Arsenal winning and, the 2 points of dropped, but you have to credit Brentford. They've been good against everyone at home, to be honest, and, they're such a good team. They're hard to play against. They play with a lot of energy. All the players know their roles and jobs and responsibilities, and they got quality at the top end of the pitch. And with the chances that we've just seen there, they probably should have got 3 points on that.
OK, well, let's take a look at the goal that did give Arsenal the lead and what they hoped was going to be all 3 points. Feels like a lifetime ago now. This was on the 61st minute. Theo, talk us through it.
Yeah, well, we did notice that Bukayo was potentially about to come on, but it's an incredible cross from Nkapé. But what I really like is the movement from Madueke. At no point does Henry know where he is. And you've got to get contact to Madueke. And this is I don't think Saka scores this goal. We said this, didn't we? But it's an incredible header, to be honest. Everything's slowed down. And you notice something with the keeper. However, I don't feel like he would have stopped it, Jermaine.
I think he slips a little bit, but I think the goalkeepers have to bounce across. When a cross comes in, it goes to the back post, the goalkeeper naturally has to bounce across. And that's why people always say, if you can head it back the same way it's come, then you've got a good chance of scoring. But it was a fantastic header because he gets up really early. and then to sort of like generate that little bit of power.
And like you were saying with the outswinger as well.
Yeah.
It's easy to generate the power to it. And Madueke was, you know, he's actually really good all night. So I was pleased when he got his goal. But
I think you've got to defend it better. Henry, I think the fullback's got to defend it better.
Well, you can't go through a season and have it all your own way, Martin. It's the key to getting it over the line, how they respond to nights like this.
100%. I think the manager was very honest there, very open, and you have to credit Brentford for what they've done here tonight as well. That on the threat they had up top, really good pace. So, but I mean, Arsenal, when they reflect on this, that obviously, they weren't at their best, but they've come away with a point. The next game up is a cup match, but then they play Wolves, which they can go 7 points clear, and maybe if they win it, and that shifts.
Then a North London derby.
Yeah, without a manager currently, maybe that's a good thing for them. They would have had a look at this tonight. But I think Arsenal scraped through here tonight. They could have put down a really big marker if they'd have won the match, but it never looked like that was going to be the case. And I think you have to credit Brentford for that. They really played well here, and Arsenal will see that as a really good point earned in the end, I believe.
Are you seeing a change in Manchester City at the moment, though, Peter, in the way they're picking up some momentum?
Well, what Manchester City have got is a recent history behind them, and I think what Arsenal have done, obviously finishing second, the criticism comes that that can lead to a little bit of nervous tension around the stadiums, certainly towards the back end of the season. And having someone like Manchester City with Pep Guardiola behind you is always you'll always be looking over your shoulder. But you'd much rather be in Arsenal's position. They're 4 points clear. They've got games. They've got probably the best squad in the league. And I think with Mosquera's tackle there, right, Igor Thiago was through. That's a match-saving tackle. If they win the league by a point. We'll be looking at that and thinking, he hasn't played all the games, but he's earned them a point there. And this could be a point earned because it's a difficult place to come.
If you can't win it, then you can't lose it. It's one of those. And I think in the past, we may have seen Arsenal teams not getting what they needed. Mosquera's coming into the team last minute. Saliba sat at home. And I actually thought he played really well in this game tonight.
I did,
there was no ill effects from his performance. One or two others, maybe not quite at the normal level. Declan Rice, though, was quite magnificent. But others need to stand up. If you're going to be champions, obviously you've got to improve on that performance. But you come away with a point, and I think that you've rescued the evening.
Do you think Mikel Arteta is getting better as well at responding to these kind of moments, staying calmer?
He's getting more experienced in it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, every year you're in the job, I think you learn more without doubt. The criticism is he's got the best squad in the league. He's got a good group of players now. He's been in the job a long time. He's been unlucky with some top teams. Now, I don't think there's top teams in the league now. I think Manchester City aren't the Manchester City of old. Liverpool aren't. Manchester United aren't what they've been. Chelsea the same. I think there's a lack of quality in the top areas, and the bar's been set really high in the past few years.
Consistency is not quite there, is it?
And I think now is a real opportunity for Arsenal. If it doesn't go through, if they don't get it over the line, there's going to be more questions asked.
But with that in mind, should Arsenal be further ahead, do you think, with the tools that they've got and the squad that they've got, as Peter says, the best in the league?
Well, I mean, look, just at the weekend, Ødegaard, Saka weren't available. Suddenly they're back from the bench, and you're always playing a little bit of catch-up. There's another surgery for another player in the midfield. Marino got injured again, and he's broken his foot. He's out. So they're big losses. And the players coming in have got to immediately pick it up and take it to another level. That didn't quite happen tonight. In the case of Eze, didn't quite pick up, wasn't getting on the ball enough, wasn't pressing high enough. I thought the manager reacted really quickly to that situation, but they couldn't see it through.
What about Eze tonight? Because he came off at half-time. It's 16 games without a goal for him, Peter. It just doesn't feel like it's quite working out for him at Arsenal so far.
I believe he's not started in the last 9 or something like that, so he's got to start today. You think, right, go and impress. Unfortunately, just felt off the boil, couldn't get on the ball first half. I mean, it was difficult for Arsenal in general, but for him, I felt for him, couldn't get on the ball, and then he doesn't give you that what Ødegaard gives you in pressing, and he doesn't affect it when he hasn't got the ball. So it was a bit of a passenger, if I'm being perfectly honest. I totally understand, and we called it kind of half an hour in he was going to come off, because for some reason it feels at the moment he doesn't fancy him. for whatever reason, and that's going to damage his England chances.
I think it's more. I think to say he doesn't fancy him. I think it's more a case of the player doesn't quite understand the structure in the same way Ødegaard does. So Ødegaard knows exactly where to be when the opposition have the ball, and then picking up those little spaces and the little passes and building play. That's something that Ødegaard does well, and Eze hasn't quite picked that up yet. It'll come in time, I'm sure it will, and there'll be moments, and that's where now he has to respond. He has to respond. He can't be hurt by what happened. It was for the good of the team, and it's on to the next one. And don't spend too long poring over it and affecting your confidence. Confidence is really important now, and that's where the manager can empower these players by giving them the confidence to feel that belief. We talked about it with their manager tonight. Keep telling the players how good they are. Nothing's really gone wrong here for Arsenal tonight. Big drama. Let's move on. Let's see. You get knocked down, you get up again. Let's see who the fighters are, and let's see who's going to win this.
How's your confidence, and Martin? Before we go, one word: will Arsenal win the league?
You got to love it.
One word.
You're never going to. They're in the running. You're not going to get me to commit, but they're certainly.
So one word.
It's about 15 now.
In with a massive chance of winning it. Why not?
Yeah, Mikel Arteta looking visibly flat and disappointed there. These are Arsenal's next 6 fixtures in the Premier League. Their rearranged fixture with Wolves, which would have been played on the original date that they were going to play the EFL Cup final, has been brought forward to next Wednesday. It does mean, Theo, that they're going to play in the league again before Manchester City play their next game. How important could that be?
Yeah, really important. It's I felt like with Man City getting the points yesterday, the days before, it's always that job. So look, it's still in their hands. Look, they have plenty of games to make up the points, of course, but everyone was going to look at that game when they play each other. Of course they are, as a neutral. But look, Arsenal, he weren't happy. He would not be happy with that. He'd be unhappy with a lot of players as well tonight because they were indifferent, should we say.
Some of the things that I picked out from that interview, him saying they lacked composure and they were giving away unnecessary free kicks. It felt uncharacteristic of Arsenal tonight. Do you agree?
I think so, yeah. I think it's the pressure. But saying that, it's a difficult place to go. I think he referenced that, you know what you're getting when you go to Brentford. It's not going to be easy, but you've got to try and make it easy. But I think you have to cut out individual mistakes. In terms of the concentration levels, has to be high. You have to limit them with chances. They didn't do that, really. Thought Brentford were better in the second half. I thought Arsenal wasted the first half. Eze weren't good enough. I still feel like he's playing with a handbrake on. I know he ain't played games and probably not match fit, but you still expect a little bit more. But yeah, they were different. They were different tonight, and I think that's a mentality thing, if I'm being honest.
And they've got to be careful, Theo, because the narrative is going to continue, isn't it? To say this has happened before. They don't want to slip up like they have in the past.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting as well in the dressing room if they're going to be constantly reminding each other of this. People like your Declan Rice and your Ødegaard.
Do you think they will?
I don't think they should. I think it's not a good place to be when you're looking at other results. But part of me feels like they will. But they need to, again, it's the cliche, focus on their job. And it's Wolves next, simple as that. And that's the focus.
And a game against a team bottom of the league is potentially one that they could get a bit of confidence from.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's probably the perfect game for them to play right now away from home. So, look, I think I would expect them to get an Arsenal win, a completely different performance.
And Martin Keown and Peter Crouch watching with me. And Martin, Brentford very much on top for a lot of the first half, but Arsenal made the change at half-time with Ødegaard coming on. And it did improve, didn't it, at the start of the second half?
Without doubt, because I think what Ødegaard brings is often missed. The way that he presses really high up the pitch, and Brentford then really couldn't play through the midfield in the way that they wanted to. I felt when the goal came, that was obviously a good moment, but then Ødegaard gets, for me, injured. I don't think quite the same player after that. I think there's actually the Arsenal players that came off the bench didn't quite look themselves, Saka, Calafiori. So that was difficult for Arsenal, but obviously Brentford were making it ever difficult. I thought the standout player, Declan Rice, for Arsenal was almost immense, the amount of distance he was covering. And it was just, it was a standout player. But I think what you do, you take that point and you say, OK, right, we'll take the point, we're off. I think that's now 24 games, derby games that Arsenal have played in without losing. There's 5 more derby games to go out of the 12, by the way. Maybe that's good news for Arsenal, but you can just see, like, I'm getting it in the air from the fans here. That local rivalry is
it didn't bother him at all, honestly.
Is intense. But credit to Brentford and Keith Andrews, what he's achieving here, the way that they developed the team. Obviously, that foundation was created by the previous manager. But boy, are they taking, adding extras to it, the long throws, the set pieces. You can see I couldn't see Arsenal surviving that last half an hour without conceding from a set piece. and so it told.
They've taken some big scalps here, Brentford, though. So a point here is not easy to get. But is the concerning thing for Arsenal fans the performance levels tonight, Peter?
Listen, I don't think I'll be overly concerned. I think it's really hard to break a team down in that low block. I think, they could have moved it quicker. In the end, it came down to a cross and a header from Madueke, but it can't be too disheartened. I think anyone who comes they know they're going to be in a game. It's a difficult place to come. They grind you down, and it wasn't too dissimilar to the Stoke team that I played for. When you just see players kind of, you just feel like it's a matter of time before you've worn them down. The deliveries from Jensen were first class. He's whipping them right underneath the bar. The throw-ins keep coming in, and I actually felt Mosquera and Gabriel did well. I thought they were two of the better players for Arsenal tonight. But, that kind of pressure eventually tells its toll.
And you felt that Arsenal were going to get it over the line with that Madueke header. It was a really good header from him, Martin.
I think, ironically, he was about to go off at that point, and it looked like it was going to be the last thing he did. It was a really good finish from him. I mean, when you get a connection like that and you head that back across the goal, goalkeeper's got no real chance. I think he actually slips, though, the goalkeeper, Croucher, doesn't he, in that situation? But it's a really good connection. And then you thought, OK, this gives you now the opportunity to stay ahead. But credit Brentford for coming back.
It actually looks like it goes in slow motion if you look at the goalkeeper here, because all his weight is transferring to that left leg. And this left leg here, if you can zoom in, he slightly lose balance of it. And that's why it looks like it goes in slow motion. You just can't get the purchase to get across and save it. But fair play to Arsenal, great delivery and a fantastic header from Madueke.
A lot about the placement of...
You've always got more of a chance. I felt like myself when I was heading the ball, you go near post, it's kind of like the way the goalkeeper's moving. If you go back the other direction, he's got to change direction, loses time, and it could be in the back of the net before he changes.
And it was a good response, though, to going behind from Brentford. 10 minutes later, and they've got the leveller through another very good header, Martin.
Yeah, I mean, it just seemed that the referee was almost saying, do you know what, anything goes. There's a suspicion maybe that there's two hands on the back of Gabriel, Arsenal's best header of the ball, but we're told that Rice is fouling just as much. You take the bones out of that one. The referee was making, giving fouls, yellow cards outside the box, but not in the box. But credit to Brentford, they get that first head on it, and then the second header is absolutely magnificent. To react that quickly, it's a really good.
I think you look like you're dying to get in there.
Well, it's never a foul, Brian.
He's got two hands on his back.
Yeah, but you can't.
But you're not going to get them. You're not going to get them, and it's almost like, hey, look, everything goes. We can't complain about it, and they're just that bit more physical than Arsenal.
It's almost the perfect throw-in. The trajectory was beautiful. The desire to get on the first header was perfect. And Lewis Potter, it goes one way, it gets in front of him. If you watch his movement as well.
It's more difficult to deal with in a corner, by the way, isn't it?
Yeah.
The low trajectory.
He's got his hands on Gabriel a little bit, and that keeps him stationary. But if we're giving fouls for that, we're giving them all day.
But he's pushed down on him, no? Used him to leviate off him, surely, no?
Well, I might as well just have retired from football if that did.
Well, we saw you do it. It was one of you did that, and you admitted you did it.
That's all I ever did. And I've got to say, the desire from Lewis Potter there to get in there far more than Odegaard, and that gets him his goal. It was actually a great header.
And a great mentality from Brentford, the way they reacted.
Yeah, but you just don't expect any different from them, I think the culture of the football club comes right from the top. I think, yeah, of course you're buying top players, or you're buying good players that you can unearth and they can get better. But I was just talking about the character there, Keith. That's, for me, that doesn't feel like an accident that you've got good people through the door. I mean, how much of that does come from the recruitment of it? How much does it go into the character of the player as well as the ability?
Yeah, listen, ability is one thing, and as you bout now, that brings you to a point. But I think as a team and as a collective, you need good people. So when the chips are down, there's a lot spoken in this day and age about lack of leadership. I see it on a daily basis, the way players lead by example. Speak about it all the time, what players and staff are doing when nobody's watching really is the key. Gone are the days when people roar and shout, really. I was guilty of it, shouting nonsense really as a player, just motivational nonsense. Whereas now there's real clarity in everything we do, how we do it, but ultimately you've got to bring good people into the football club that want to achieve and strive to do special things. And I think when you have that, you can do that.
Just looking at the way that Arsenal and the way that, were you surprised the amount of space they were giving you early in the game? Because Eze wasn't quite pressing. You know, when Ødegaard come on, it was the reverse. He kind of pushed up against you. It was more long ball for you. You couldn't go through midfield. Did that surprise you at the beginning of the game?
Yeah, I was expecting it better. I think Ødegaard is a very good presser when he releases from 10 out to centre backs. I think he times it really well, and the angle that he goes is very effective. He's very, very good at it. When Ødegaard normally plays, they normally do that. They do it in different ways when he doesn't play. So yeah, I always expected a reaction. If I'm being really hypercritical, I wanted us to play a little bit more during that stage and show a little bit more. But equally, it's not easy.
But you're evolving, aren't you? The way the team is, an interest in your fullbacks coming into midfield now. One fullback going down the line. You started the season, it was a bit more pragmatic, but it seems like now. Is that you giving the instruction, okay, you feeling more confident with the group and saying, come on, let's express ourselves and be more creative?
Yeah, a bit of both, really. I do give licence to the players to express themselves, to react off each other's movements. I think the way we play now is constantly evolving, and I want us to be unpredictable, really, for the opposition. I find it easier to prepare for a game when I know what the opposition are always going to do. And I think the same will probably be said about us. I think there's real unpredictability in how we play.
Keith, you were quite vocal with the referee at the end. Was that about Gabriel? Did you feel he maybe should have had a second yellow?
I think it was a definite yellow, yeah. It was a definite yellow.
Do you know, I'm not even going to argue with that.
There was enough yellows given out today.
Yeah.
And it felt like that was another one.
It kind of felt,
isn't it?
I don't know how you felt, because you profited from it. But did you feel this referee was kind of like, well, whatever happens in the box, do what you want? Outside the box, he was giving a lot of fouls, a lot of yellows. Were you feeling that?
I just feel like the first few fouls always set the bar for how they referee the game, and there's always that level, isn't there? And then I felt a few times in the first half we weren't getting quite the rub of it. I think inside the box today, I was really happy with our movement. I was really happy with our body language. There's a lot made, obviously, of Arsenal set pieces. We're not so bad ourselves.
Well, and certainly not, because Man City, the only one of the top 6 who've actually come here and got a win this season. What does that say about the mindset of your players?
Yeah, it's impressive. I think it goes back to what you were saying about the type of people that we have here that want to push, want to really strive to achieve something. It's a young group, really. If you take Jordan out of the equation, he probably tilts the average age by a few years. There's a lot of young players looking to make their way and are constantly learning at the toughest level of world football. So they're just a pleasure to work with on a daily basis. I look at other groups sometimes. I wouldn't particularly want to manage other groups. The way I see, the way the game is now, and the way maybe managers are the first to go in certain scenarios, whereas I think what's been built here for years and years, the culture, the togetherness, I'm big on that. I wanted to maintain that in the summer and then enhance it, and I feel we've done that.
You've got a very different test next because it's Macclesfield, but you're on 40 points now in the league, so you haven't got to worry about the league at the moment, so you can go strong. Are you going to target a good cup run?
Yeah, we target the League Cup. We went to the quarterfinals and that. We took that very seriously, utilised the squad, but equally took it very, very seriously, and the same will be the case for the FA Cup on Monday against Macclesfield. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well done on an impressive point tonight.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Keith.
Well done.
See you, mate, and all the best.
See you, coach. Brilliant, mate. Well done, mate.
It was interesting what you were saying there at the end about the culture of the game and managers being the first to go, but Brentford.
I think it's, do you know, I find it really refreshing because of the way that he's come into the game, and he may have felt he's gone into the punditry world, and he had a couple of jobs, didn't he, as a coach? Did one with Martin O'Neill, and suddenly he's come in and he's embraced it, and maybe he appreciates things a little bit more, and he's doing a lot. He's giving a lot of praise to his players the whole time. We heard the reaction, didn't we, afterwards they interviewed the players, and he's getting results. And he's built on an incredible platform, there's no doubt. And this club's really well run in terms of its recruitment. And look at the strikers they've had, Ivan Toney, Thiago. They just sold 2 last season. Incredible players that they're getting through the door. But you've got to be able to work with them and you've got to improve them. And he's certainly doing that.
But do you think the club itself gives managers the platform and all the tools that they need to thrive?
Yeah, I mean, this club, for instance, a player might not get in another Premier League club. No one's ever heard of him. They'll give him a chance here, and they give him a platform to go and play. And when you listen to Lewis Potter talking after the game, there he says he tells us how good we are every day. There's a lot to be said for that. just telling, if someone tells
Reminding.
you how good you are, it builds your confidence. You're like, yeah, I can go out there. We've got Arsenal today, but I'm as good as them. And I think there's a lot to be said of the man management skills, and I think that's kind of, it feels like he gives that license to them. He gives them the belief to go out and play. And not everyone responds to criticism consistently.
Do you know what? You guys are great.
Yeah, I know that. Liz.
You know, it is
I know I
confidence.
am.
It is confidence. I mean, people will say, "What was my role in the Arsenal team?" I was just spinning plates, telling. And the better they played, the less I had to do.
They weren't bad, though, Martin.
They weren't bad. They weren't bad. The Vieiras
love
and
Martin as the hype man.
and Wrights. But honestly, even those great players need to be told, repeatedly told, and that's what the manager. Obviously, it's working for this manager.
Does he inspire you to get into coaching?
No, I think I'm too late.
There's a job at Spurs.
Too late. Unless I go as
Spurs job. It's available, Martin.
Can't do that. No. I've turned it down already.
Kick off with Sam from Sky.
Hi, Mikel. Normally, you look at this as 2 points dropped, but the way the game went, is that actually a point gained, perhaps?
Well, I think the game had different moments. The first 10-15 minutes, we lacked certain composure to dominate the game better. I think after that, we started to play much more in our way and started to play in their half and generated some good situations without really having clear-cut chances. The second half, the way we started, we really looked a threat. The way we combined, the way we threat constantly their backs, and the goalie was much better. Again, without really hitting the targets enough times or finishing enough actions. And then we scored the goal, and the game was under total control. But against them, that's not enough, because they just need somebody making a foul that is unnecessary, a ball in the channel, they push you, the clearance is not good, ball goes for a throw-in, and then you have to pray, because they are exceptional at what they do. The chaos that is in around that ball is very, very difficult to defend. And we said, you want to win here, you're going to have to defend the box with your life, and you're going to have to clear the ball, because there's a lot of people there. And if you don't do that, very difficult for you to win the game. We haven't done it in one of the actions, and credit to them as well for that. And then the game became more open, more transitional. They had one of the big chances and the clearance of Declan just at the end. And we have two very good counters and probably the biggest chance of the game when Martinelli is 1v1 with the keeper to win it.
Yes, you have to score that, Martinelli.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, it's football, and the keeper as well can make the decision and the action that he did. But if you want to win here, I mean, you're gonna have to be really ruthless in both boxes, and today we like that.
Tom, Reach.
Michael, at half time you made a big change with Eza coming off and Martin coming on. Could you talk about that change, why you decided to make that change and why that was the decision of that?
Because with the way that, especially that they were pressing, I think we needed another kind of profile to generate many more problems to them in and around those areas, and I think he came on in the pitch really well, and the team had another gear and more threat to arrive to the areas that we wanted to do, and that's the decision.
Sam, Telegraph.
Are you worried at all by the lack of impact that Eze is having?
Well, I think he had moments, and it's not easy when you move to a new club. It's always like this, and when you play against a team that is like this, and the ball is a lot of times not on the floor, and you have to be constantly breaking the play and do that, especially for the attacking and creative players, is more difficult.
Amy, Athletic.
Mikel, is there something in having to play second after Man City? There's been a lot of games where Arsenal played first, and you have an easier time maybe to take on a game in that conditions. Do you feel like there's a different kind of pressure at the moment?
I don't think so. I think we played as well after them a few times this season, and we have won the games. And today is not about that. Today we lack certain things. Against them, you have to defend those situations, even better prevent them. You want to give them no chance or just hope that something bad happens, and we didn't manage that well enough for us throughout the game.
In a sense though, do you take a positive, although you talked about you've got to defend with your life and the set pieces and so on, there was some moments of defending with their lives in one-on-one when there were breaks. Talked about Declan, Mosquera.
Yeah. The thing has to be a reaction, because they go for volume. I mean, they know the probability of they want to create, and they just need volume to increase that probability. And they are constantly doing that, and they are really good at doing that.
Okay, we'll do the last couple on.
Do you have a problem with the way that Brentford
play, the chaos and the play
No.
set pieces is all.
They are really good because when they have to play as well in and around you, I think they dominate so many areas. On the high press, they are really good. They are really good on restarts. They are really good when they have to counter, exceptional when they have to counter as well. They have a lot of qualities and big credit to them. And they can take the game into these areas and they are really well coached. And from the beginning, I said credit to them for what they do, because if not, they don't have the home record and they are not in the position they are in the league, that's for sure.
Last couple tonight, Ed from Guardian.
Obviously, you're still 4 points clear of City at the top. Is it important that you don't panic after dropping a couple of points tonight and everybody just stays calm and tries to keep focused?
Well, that's what we have to do. I mean, we're going to be willing and preparing to win every single match, and the only thing that we can do is focus on that and raise the levels collectively and individually to be better than the opponent every week, and that's going to carry on like this till May, regardless we play before or after that. It's just the things that we have to do. That's the most important thing.
Phil, PA?
Yeah, just as a follow-up to that, I guess, Mikel, there was one stage on Sunday where it looked as though you'd be 9 points clear. Now, see the gap, as Ed said, 4 points. Is there a worry at all that moving?
I understand, but that's an if, and if we would have lost in Newcastle, we were 8 points behind Liverpool in October. So if is a lot of ifs for 10 months in this competition. You can only focus in what you have to do and try to do that in the best possible way.
Okay, we do a couple for Friday, 12 o'clock for Wigan on Sunday. If we can just put this in the back. Cheers, guys.
Mikel, how do you view that point on the road?
Well, a really tough place to come. We knew that very difficult to dominate the game through long periods because they are really good. They drag you to a game where anytime the ball is in and around the byline or in the channel, you put the ball out for a throw-in, and it's it's like a casino. Anything can happen, and something really bad can happen. And you have to navigate through that. I think after the first 15 minutes, we started to dominate the game. I started the second half really well, the first 20-25 minutes, scored the goal, and from there we lacked more composure, I think, to maintain the ball better, to play in the right areas, to stay more disciplined, because we started to give a lot of unnecessary free kicks away and with bad clearances, and allow the ball in the channels and start to generate set pieces, and they are really, really good at it, so credit to them as well, for sure.
That first 15 minutes, did you make errors that are quite uncharacteristic of your Arsenal side?
I don't know, it's part of the game. Sometimes you don't start that well, and sometimes it's great to a position as well.
You made the switch at half-time for Eze for Martin Odegaard. Was that tactical or injury?
Yes, it was tactical. Yes, I think we needed a different kind of profile in the manner that especially they were pressing, and we started really, really well the second half.
And then at the end, as you said, it felt like either team could have won that and either team could have lost it.
Yeah, we had a massive chance at the end with a 1v1 all through for Guy Martinelli, but it didn't meant to be.
4 points the difference now. How much attention do you pay to this?
Well, the same that I was used to pay 2 or 3 weeks ago. We have to do our job, and we're going to have to come to all these places the same like the rest of the team, and we know how tough it is, and you have to be at your best every game and have the luck that you need as well in games to conquer the 3 points each week.